Hi, and welcome to Comedy Recapped. Today we will be examining 1993's Fatal Instinct, a spoof film based on thrillers such as Fatal Attraction and Basic Instinct. Beware. Spoilers ahead. We open up on a boardwalk, and a woman walks down the gum-infested pier. We hear Ned talk about what most women are really like while Arch eats his nachos, and Arch eventually tells him to stop all of that chatter about women. Ned tells him that all women are an open book if you know how to read them. He says that if any woman can prove him wrong, he'll throw away his badge. Arch talks about how he's tired of being on stakeouts looking for a bandit that might never show up, as a man with pantyhose on his head walks up beside them and starts eating a snow cone through the hose. He hears Ned and Arch talking about him, and he slowly walks off. Arch leaves Ned to get more nachos, and a woman makes her way over to Ned. She tries to buy him a drink, but Ned says that he's on duty. So she settles for buying him a hot dog, and Ned tells her he can't resist a wiener. When the woman starts to take a bite of her hot dog, Ned blows a load of mustard on her. But he also notices the bandit going into the bathroom. He goes after him, but the bandit makes it to the bumper cars to try to get away. After a high-speed chase in the bumper car arena, Arch joins the chase, and they end up in a dark alley. The bandit almost gets away up a ladder, but Ned tickles the bandit's foot until he comes back down. Ned arrests him and reads him his rights, but when the bandit mentions that he doesn't have an attorney, Ned hands him his card, which states that he's also a defense attorney. Later that night at Ned's house, Ned's wife Lana finishes up a little hanky-panky with Frank, and they smoke unlighted cigarettes in bed. Frank asks her how Ned finds time for being a cop, lawyer, and her, but she points out that he doesn't. She tells him that she would trade to the newer model if she could get any money out of it. Just then, Ned comes home, and Frank and Lana are downstairs having a cup of coffee. When Ned sees Frank, he points out that he's been working on the car for weeks now, and he calls Frank out for screwing Lana over. In the process, Lana gets really worked up, and right after Ned walks out, Lana has Frank do it on the kitchen table. Later at the office, Laura comes in and reminds Ned of all the changes. She helps him get ready for his appointments, and Ned tells her that he couldn't do any of this without her. As he walks out, Laura notices an unfolded towel, and her worst nightmares flood her mind. We're taken back to Cape Cod 3 years before, and we see Laura, who forgot to fix a towel in her husband's bathroom. He comes after her, and we come back to the present where Laura screams for help. Ned comes back in, and he recommends some prune juice. After that, Ned throws on a suit and heads to court to defend the bandit. He provides the best defense that court has ever seen, and somehow, he manages to get the bandit off the hook. When he comes back to his office, he finds the same girl from the pier. It turns out that the bobby pin she used to get in managed to break the handle off the door, and she picks up with her dirty talk right where they left off. Eventually, Laura comes in to pick up Ned's mess, and the woman introduces herself as Lola. When Ned isn't looking, the two girls have a show of strength as they fight for Ned's affection. After Laura leaves, Lola gets right down to the point and tries to have him come by her house. He tells her that he'll come over tomorrow, and Lola leaves, subtly. At Ned's house, Lana and Frank go over Ned's life insurance policy, and she finds out that she can get $9 million if Ned dies in a very specific manner. Ned has to die by being shot with a pistol, falling off a northbound train, and drown in a freshwater stream. Lana decides that it must be done. This weekend at a symposium. Ned decides to go home early that night and try to have a baby with Lana, but she's not having any of it. In the morning, Lana realizes that both Frank and Ned are in the bed, and Frank tries to make the noisiest escape ever. The next day, Ned gets hit by a bus while daydreaming about Lola. When Ned makes it to the office, Laura reminds Ned of a dangerous criminal that is being released from prison, who is one of Ned's clients. Ned doesn't think he's in any danger, though. Suddenly, Laura has another flashback to her husband and the towel that fell. Ned ends up dousing her in water to get her out of her flashback. That night, Ned meets Lola at a club, and she punches him before walking out to keep up her reputation. He follows her home, though, and he follows her upstairs to her bedroom. She gets up close and personal, but Ned continues to be oblivious to what she's really trying to do, as he talks about a dangerous fantasy. When he goes to leave, he tells her that he's got a cold shower and a trusting wife waiting for him. and Lola can't believe her charm didn't work. Ned goes to leave, and Lola locks up behind him. He forgets to grab his keys off the table though, and he ends up driving a lawnmower through her wall to get inside. She thinks that he wants her that bad, but he just grabs the keys. Then, Lola jumps on Ned, and they shake things up all around the house until morning. The two of them sit in the bathtub, and Ned tells her that what happened last night can never happen again. Lola doesn't take that too well. And next thing we know, Ned is in a bird shop to buy a present for Lana while wearing ripped clothes. Meanwhile, Max gets out of prison, and he tells the reporters that he's going to find Ned and kill him. Across town, Ned gets back to the office with his present, and Laura tells him that Lana called. She pieces together that he spent the night with Lola. Soon, a delivery boy shows up with flowers from Lola, and Laura simply flushes them down the toilet. When Ned goes home that evening, Lana pretends to be worried about him until Frank manages to escape out the window. Then she notices the box that Ned brought home, and he shows her that he brought her a skunk. What he doesn't see is that Lola is watching from outside the window. The next day, Ned finds out that it's Laura's birthday, and he takes her out to buy a new hat. Max is watching from the sidelines, and he tries some pretty hats on while he waits to kill Ned. In the evening, the two of them go to a restaurant for drinks, and their inner monologues interrupt each other until Laura bursts at the seams, thinking about getting with him. The next day, Frank removes the engine from Ned's car, and they proceed with their plan. Lana convinces him to take the train, even though everyone close to him has died in a train. Frank shows up and offers to give them a ride to the train station, and Max hitches a ride on the bottom of the train. When they get to the train station, Lana says her farewell to Ned before they all hop on the train after him. Laura's husband also gets off the train at the same time. Once the train gets moving, Max gets ready to kill Ned, but the conductor puts his weapon in baggage claim. Ned, on the other hand, sits with a boy who tells him all of the statistics of train accidents, and he has to go to the vestibule to catch his breath. Lana heads to the vestibule to shoot Ned, but it turns out to be Max instead. Ned ends up having to arrest her, and when he gets home, Lola shows up and starts taking over the house duties. Ned kicks her out, and he heads to court to defend Lana. Once in court, things kick off well for Ned, and he's able to pull out all sorts of evidence in the game that is Lana's court case. Eventually, he even calls Lana up to the stand, and she tries to say that she meant to kill Max as a means to defend Ned's private parts and life. After the court hears about how Ned's privates were in danger, the jury hands in their verdict, and they find Lana not guilty of all charges. After the case, the evidence goes back on sale, and Lana goes to buy back her own gun. And Laura finds that rather odd. Ned simply thinks that it's the gun that saved his life. Later, Lana goes to Frank's garage, and she kills him for leaving her to rot in the slammer. Lola is watching from the car parked outside, and soon, the police arrive at the crime scene. Ned and Arch show up, and they find Frank pinned to the wall. When he goes home, he finds Lola on the couch with Lana, and he immediately starts denying everything before hearing anything. After he finally stops talking, Lola points out that she's there to make sure Lana's problems go away before anyone finds out. Later, Ned makes his way to Lola's house, and he tackles her. He says he just wants to talk, but they end up tossing each other around as they have a nice, calm conversation. It turns out that Lana is actually Lola's sister, and Lola tells Ned about how Lana stole the love of her life from her childhood. Lana even took her underwear. They were identical twins at one point. Lana smashed Lola's face in with a shovel one day, and after 50-something operations, she ended up with the face she has now. Ned is amazed at the work the doctor did, but Lola's love left her for Lana since Lana looked like the old Lola. As revenge, Lola decided to destroy Lana's marriage. Ned changes the music track, and Lola tells Ned that Lana killed Frank. After Ned tells Lola Frank's last name, she realizes that Frank was actually the son of her old lover that Lana stole. Ned rushes home and creeps inside to find a cat in the medicine cabinet. When he hears knocking at the back door, he opens up to find out that Laura is there to tell him about something she figured out. She tells Ned about Lana's plan to kill him to collect on the insurance money. Meanwhile, Lola breaks in and starts drowning Lana in the bathtub. After a few moments and different breathing apparatuses, Lana dies. Ned goes to the bathroom to find Lana's body in the tub, but downstairs, Laura's husband creeps around outside. Ned searches the house for Lola, but she attacks him first. He winds up blowing her off the second story with a hairdryer, and Laura knocks out her husband with a frying pan before grabbing her revolvers. She creeps upstairs to Ned, and the two of them embrace. Just then, Lana and Lola actually end up not being dead, and they come after Laura and Ned. Laura ends up putting them down real quick, and the two of them decide to get married and have kids. They lie in bed kissing while the skunk watches, and the saxophone player lies next to them. This is a great spoof film of some of the classic steamy crime thriller movies that came before it. With its airplane style of comedy, it's sure to be on the cult classic shelf. And that wraps up this recap. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this recap, please subscribe with notifications turned on, so you don't miss a single video.